Let's freaking go. Tuesday night live stream. We've got Jayden Daniels to talk. We got Garrett Nussmeier to talk. We got to talk about Derek Stingley. Are you kidding me? This man's life is about to change in the next week. And we're going to talk about all the future LSU Tigers in the NFL draft. We welcome in Mick. We welcome in Paris. The president of PHL is also here, Cliff. You got to love it. And look, you know what we do, baby. You know what we do. We are presented by our friends at the Presley Collection and PresleyCollection.com. And I got to tell you something about these new watches we have going on with the Presley Collection. So spring football is over. We have a lot to get to regarding that. But I'm super excited. Tonight we do have a special, our first ever Tuesday night guest, and we bring him in now. His name is Keith Sanchez, known in the LSU building as the Sanchez, baby.
Oh, man, you took it back with that one. I haven't heard that in a minute.
And now you're doing like everything. You're with the Draft Network, and you're actually live in Las Vegas right now. You just flew in. You're with the Draft Network. A lot of people are familiar with sports cards. You got the Rated Rookie logo on the back. Are you kidding me? I'm where you want to be, man. I'm trying to get like you, baby. So give people a little background of what you're doing right now in Las Vegas.
Right. So right now I'm with the Draft Network right now. And so what we're doing is we spend the whole year, right, evaluating in college prospects that are going to the NFL. And this is kind of our culmination, right? This is the part where we get to show our talents and really display what we do. So we've put the evaluations out there. And I always like to say this, that everybody, they love to tell the what, we kind of tell the why, right? So it's easy to say, okay, well, man, this corner is going in the third round, but we kind of want to see why this guy's going in the third round, or why one team may not be as high on a player than another team, because we all know, the draft is made up and successful teams are made up sometimes of those 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round picks, and it's all about what team they go to. So we try to give the best insight for every NFL team and just for NFL fans, so they can really know what's going on behind the scenes. So like I said, man, it's a 365, 24/7 job, and this is our time to really shine. So we're excited to be out here.
Keith's time is very limited with us tonight, so if you do want to get a question in, obviously Venmo, Cash App, Super Chat's the best way to get your question to the front of the line. Obviously, Keith, right off the jump here, giving a little background here, you were a part of the legendary 2019 LSU team, and also you were a part of a lot of what LSU did over a 4-year stretch. So give people a little background for what you did for the Fighting Tigers of LSU.
All right, so that's a player personnel analyst. So for those who aren't familiar, because I feel as though this is a very underrated part in college football, right? Like everybody knows the coaches, everybody knows the players, but the personnel part of it is goes into selecting the players, right? And it talks about the key word that I know we've all familiar with: roster management, player retention, player attainment, and then we even know now it's evolved to a whole nother level with the transfer portal. So LSU this offseason, they really attacked the transfer portal, and all that starts with the personnel office. So that's cutting up the film, that's getting it in front of the coaches, that's making key decisions on 5-star guys, 4-star guys, guys that are rated 3 stars that some people may be overlooking, but we've done our research, right? Going to the Nike camps, the Adidas camps, the Rivals camps, and we feel really good about these kids, not only as athletes, but also their character, because that also plays a big part in development. So it's really the behind the scenes job of college football.
And when you're at LSU, evaluation's tough in the state of Louisiana. So I want to ask you a very specific question, because whenever a 3-star Louisiana kid hits somewhere else, you get peppered with this all the time. I see that smile. Why didn't you offer this kid? Why'd you go all the way to Timbuktu to get a 5-star when, 2 and 3-star kids? So walk us through what like an LSU big board looks like as far as your evaluation process.
Man, I would talk about me specifically, right? Because it changes from year to year. But I love the fact that you brought up that scenario of passing up on a 3-star in-state kid and going for an out-of-state 4-star, 5-star kid, because that's the most tough part of the job, right? Like LSU, Louisiana, we know it's just bred in us, right? And when you're passing up a kid that ultimately wants to be here, or has connections with the state of Louisiana, and they know how much it means to them, it's very tough, because it's very tough for the fans also. So man, that's the most taxing process, and you really just got to dot your I's and cross your T's to make sure that, hey, when you go get this out of state kid, that he's going to give you everything he's got. And then also when you implement things like the transfer portal, to where these kids from out of state, they may get homesick and they want to transfer back home, and then now you're down a roster spot, right? Because this kid got homesick when you could have had the 3-star kid. And I would say that that's probably the toughest part, and that was the part that I was most tough on myself throughout my job at LSU. I was always campaigning for Louisiana kids, because like I said, it just means something for them, and you want these kids to stay home. And we all know that the famous song at kickoff, that I don't have to repeat it, right? But when they're actually from Louisiana, they do an extra little head nod, right? So you just always try to lead to all your Louisiana kids for sure.
What was as far as your time at LSU? What was it like? Because Ed Orgeron and the recruiting power hour is pretty well known, right? And how
I didn't know that. Things getting out. I didn't know that. Okay, let's go.
Yeah. Well. Here's the thing. I know how intense. I've heard stories about how intense this job can be. So, what was it like? Leading into that 2019 season, did you feel something a little bit different with the program at that time?
Yeah, and I would say it's because we had faith in Joe Burrow, and we all knew, we've been LSU fans, right? It's been a minute since we've had that quarterback that we're like, you know what, this is the guy that can really take us over the hump. And everybody looks at the 2019 season, but I think in order to tell Joe Burrow's full story and to give him his full credit for what he accomplished, you have to go back to the 2018 season, right? Because I think this guy was a 18 touchdown or 21 touchdown and 6 interception guy, which is okay in the SEC, right? That's not nothing to really write home about. And he was talk to scout, 6th round pick. But one thing we knew in the building, that this guy was tough. And I think that's the number one thing you want in your quarterback. I remember it was during that season, and I believe we were doing red zone drills, 7-on-7s, and I believe it was Greedy Williams and Devin White. They were talking trash to a backup quarterback, right? I forgot who it was at the time. They might have intercepted the pass. And then so Joe Burrow was on the sideline, talking smack back to him. And at the time, like I said, Joe Burrow's a 6th round pick, and you got Devin White, who's a top 5 pick, and Greedy Williams, who's supposed to be a consistent 1st rounder. So just for him to, have that gumption about himself, is like, you know what? This kid got something to him, and I don't care. I'm going to just roll with it. I have no idea where it's going to take me, but I'm going to roll with it. And I think that's what most defensive players and even offensive players want to see in their quarterback. They're like, man, look, this guy's going to be right on the front line with me, giving it all he has.
Talking to Keith Sanchez here, Draft Network, former LSU staffer. I want to ask you about quarterback evaluation, because you just mentioned toughness, and LSU has 4 new quarterbacks. Now, you're probably familiar. You probably know Myles Brennan. But they bring in JAYDEN Daniels, Garrett Nussmeier, Walker Howard's in there. So obviously, with your time restrictions, you're not able to watch every snap that they take in practice and whatnot. But what are you looking for when you're evaluating an elite quarterback?
Well, to say this, I actually just watched the spring game yesterday. I was able to record it, so I actually just watched it. So I got a chance to look at it. And I'll talk about the 4 quarterbacks, right? And just taking away from that spring game, what I got was that Myles Brennan looks really comfortable. He looks like this is his 4th, 5th year. He looks like he's ready to really take the bull by the horns and really own this thing. And we forget that before he got hurt, that 2020 season, he was tearing it up in the SEC, right? I think he had multiple 300-yard games before his injury. So he looks comfortable. JAYDEN Daniels, he looks like he can bring an element with his legs. He made multiple plays, right? When we talk about those quarterback read option plays, he looked like he's really comfortable with that right now. And the passing stuff will come in due time, right? And then Nussmeier, Nuss a gunslinger. I like Nuss as a person. He's just one of those guys too, those captivating quarterbacks that the defensive players kind of lean towards him too and be like, okay, I kind of like this guy. He has a swag about himself, and that's something that you can't teach. It's just in you one way or the other. And then Walker Howard, I'm not extremely familiar with him. He was part of our recruiting class when I was there, but that was during COVID, so his growth really happened from his sophomore to junior to senior year. And unfortunately, they weren't able to come on campus a whole lot for us to see them and, really evaluate them in person. So I'm not extremely familiar with Walker Howard, but I mean, I think that the quarterback situation for LSU is in pretty good hands. Like they have a good floor, and now it's just about who is going to take it to the next level.
If you were to pick one to start, let's say you're the head coach, who would you start?
I will go Myles Brennan right now. I think he's the most experienced guy. He's one of the few players that's in that building that was a part of that winning culture, right? So he knows what it looks like. He knows what Chris routes are supposed to look like. He knows what formations are supposed to look like. He knows what a championship practice is supposed to look like. So when you talk about just that championship standard that's supposed to be set there, he has experience and he's seen it done. And like I said, I always look for the confidence that quarterbacks play with. And to say that it's a new system for Myles, to me, he still just looked comfortable out there. Like the game wasn't moving too fast for him. And he's actually taking progressions as a quarterback from, first year, second year, third year, fourth year. So I'm going with Myles.
There you go. Talking to Keith Sanchez. This is so cool, man. And you took us behind like the doors. It's crazy. Like I've had people like send me photos and what some of the stuff, because like where like the power hour room was, you had this dry erase board, right? And there's no telling what would be up there, right? Let me ask you this, okay? Because we're gonna get to the current draft class in just a second.
Okay.
Was there a player that you banged the table for your 4 years as a recruiting staffer? Was there a guy that LSU actually took and actually hit? Was there someone? Were you banging the table for Justin Jefferson to use an example, or was there someone that you can remember that you were like, yeah, I was a big reason why we got that kid?
Man, okay, like we going deep into that now. Guys that I banged the table for that I really like. You mentioned him already, but you would have to say Justin Jefferson, right? And
right,
I would say just in our evaluation process, we did a good job of streamlining it, meaning that I would cut the film, evaluate, but then it was also a process of getting into the position coach, then the offensive coordinator, then the head coach. So it was, it was really steps to it. But Justin Jefferson's story was one of the more unique stories, right? I believe that in his class, he was a two-star kid. And then I don't even believe he signed on signing day. And I believe if he was to sign on signing day, he probably wasn't coming to LSU just because we weren't as heavy on him at that moment, right? And then everything just worked out. And I'll tell you one thing I'll never forget, Justin Jefferson first practice. I believe that guy was wearing like number 33 or 39 or something like that. And he was just routing everybody up. And we was like, hold on, like we might have something here. And to Justin's credit, he didn't take that one practice and, kind of rest on his laurels. Him and wide receiver coach Mickey Joseph, they just continue to work at it. And that's a big reason why Justin Jefferson is the person he is. So that's one, you talk about those feel-good stories and you talk about character, and the kid just wanted. Justin Jefferson is where he is because he wanted to be there.
So obviously this is something that you're probably getting asked a lot about. I wouldn't be surprised if NFL teams reached out to you about Derek Stingley Jr., right? Yeah. Because he's not your typical LSU defensive back. We normally think of LSU defensive backs as these big personalities, and Sting is to himself, right? So first, give me your personal evaluation of Derek Stingley, and second, tell me how you think the league feels about him. Do you feel he needs to go into a room where there's a bunch of veteran leadership, kind of like what he did in 2019?
Yeah. So I guess when you say personally, are you talking about evaluation wise or
yeah, your personal evaluation, knowing him personally, and how do you think he translates?
Evaluation wise, he's the best cornerback in this draft. And it's a gap between it, honestly. Like in everybody says. And everybody says the 2019 film was 2-3 years ago. Well, I say at least he has it on his resume, right? Like you name me another cornerback in this draft that has played at that level, and you won't find one. So, man, when you look at the past 2 years, and you talk about the 2021 season, he was injured. Then the 2020 season, it's hard to point fingers at one person, right? And say Derek Stingley was at fault for this. Because, I mean, there were a lot of busted coverages all over the place. And sometimes when the camera pans, it may just look like it's Derek Stingley's fault, but it could be someone else's fault, right? So, man, it's really tough. But like I said, I always go back to that 2019 season. We're talking about a kid that was a true freshman, right? And those of Louisiana folks we're extremely familiar with Louisiana, he was playing at Dunham, right? Like that's a what is that 1A class 3 Catholic high school football to where he didn't have much competition, but you want to know how bad he wants it. He stepped up on the biggest stage as an 18-year-old kid and was possibly one of the best defensive players in that whole year. So I think that's just a testament of when you talk about work ethic, his his natural instincts as a cornerback and just his true athleticism. Man, I wouldn't pass up on him if I was another general manager in this draft.
We say hi to the Master Blaster. Tony B is in here. We say hi to Chris. Chris is one of the sharpest PHLers out there. We say hi to Tony. We say hi to a lot of people in here watching. Keith Sanchez hanging out with us. Now, let's get a general draft question.
Okay, let's go.
16 and 19. We're not a Saints channel, but there's a lot of Saints fans that will watch this. What do you think's going on with them right now?
I said this once, and I'm gonna say this again. The New Orleans Saints, they don't rebuild, they just reload. And that's what we're doing. We move to that position because we feel like we have a really good team, right? In which we do. Like this is the same team that held Tom Brady to, I believe, 0 points, blanked this guy. And that was without a quarterback. And I think when we had Jameis Winston, we were well on our way to the playoffs. And at Draft Network, we like to talk about this. You talk about NFC quarterbacks. The NFC is down overall. So there's a very real path that the Saints can make into the playoffs. So I say, why scrap it or why use those 2 draft picks to get a quarterback? I think us as Saints fans, or majority of Saints fans, felt comfortable with Jameis Winston did last year, right? That we have a good team we could put around him and he can take us to the playoffs and maybe a deep playoff run. So if I'm the Saints, 16 and 19, we lost Teron Armstead. So I'm hoping that there's a tackle there. And then you lost Malcolm Jenkins. You need a wide receiver. So I go DB or wide receiver at that position. Michael Thomas is, coming back. Hopefully he's fully healthy and, mentally he's in the right spot. And we're ready to kick this thing off. But the Saints are a very talented team. The general manager, Mickey Loomis, he did what he's supposed to do, and that's draft good players and put together a good team. So I think there's no need to rebuild. Like I said, there's no rebuild. It's just reload.
Obviously, you're one of our sharpest guests that we've had. We've had a lot of really just amazing people on here. I see you working in personnel. I see you potentially being a GM assistant, maybe the next Mickey Loomis. You never know.
I appreciate that.
So what I want you to do, right? Because people know I vet guests. We don't have a whole lot of guests. So what I want you to do is put the GM hat on. Okay, you're Les Snead, you're Nick Saban or whoever, right? And you want a quarterback in this draft to build your franchise around. Sanchez, who are you taking in this quarterback class?
Oh man.
Or do you just not like any of them? Would you just say no to all of them?
Nah, so I would go with Malik Willis. And I had the opportunity, we were at the Senior Bowl, to watch this guy in person. And I'm going to tell you what I came impressed with, right? Everybody knows that Malik Willis is a really good athlete. But at the Senior Bowl, and, for a running quarterback, the ability to run the football, that's like your go-to, right? That's like a pitcher in baseball. That's that fastball, right? That full-seam fastball where you can hit your spot, you can paint your corners. But at the Senior Bowl, they took away his fastball. So he had to only throw the football. And I would say this, that from the first day to the second day to the third practice, he continually got better. And you seen that he had the ability to get coached up. And then when you mix that in with his athletic ability that you see on the film, I think that he has really high upside. And if this was 10, 15 years ago, right, where NFL offenses were, I wouldn't say draft Malik Willis. But we seen Jalen Hurts take the Philadelphia Eagles to the playoffs, right? With and we've seen Jalen Hurts, him being at Alabama. He's not a great thrower of the football, and he's a pretty good athlete for a running quarterback, but I think Malik Willis has superior arm strength to this guy, and I think he's also a more electric runner than what Jalen Hurts is. So if you put the right offense around this guy, I believe that you can have a true playmaker, and what you do is you take it by progression, right? You don't put everything on his plate at one time. You introduce things, time at a time, and then you hopefully year 2 to year 3, the light bulb clicks. Everybody likes to go to the Josh Allen situation. And the reason that it worked is because it's a bet on trace type thing, right? He had a really good arm and he was mobile. And then now it's up for the coaches to get everything else out of him.
Joe Burrow, AFC. So you're probably hearing this because you're around all the NFL people, right? Like there's Josh Allen, Justin Herbert. Obviously,
Yeah.
you're a Burrow guy. I'm a Burrow guy. But let's take our Burrow hats off just for a second.
All right,
Okay.
1 second, 1 second.
Yeah, just once. Let's just take it off. All right. Look, we all think Joe's going to win Super Bowl at some point. But how do you feel about the AFC? Because this is probably a question you're getting a lot of right now. Is there's Josh Allen, there's Justin Herbert, there's all these other great AFC quarterbacks. Lamar is still unreal. Do you like Joe Burrow and the Bengals moving forward? Because they do get Lyle Collins. They obviously Jamar and T Higgins are my favorite 1-2 combo in the NFL. Do you like Joe moving forward in the AFC, or do you think it being so loaded with all these great quarterbacks now, Russell Wilson's in the division, and that Mahomes guy still kind of sort of good? How do you feel about the Bengals' future from your NFL vantage point?
Yeah, I think the Bengals' future is bright. Joe Burrow is bright, right? I think it's up to the general manager to continue to put pieces around him, and not just offensive pieces, to put defensive pieces too, because sometimes you have to win that defensive battle in the playoffs, right? We know Joe Burrow, he can sling it with the best of them. He's a great quarterback, top 5 quarterback in the NFL right now. I think you also have to put the rest of those pieces. This guy did it with arguably the worst offensive line. Obviously, the Bengals addressed that this year, but just keep putting pieces around this guy. And sometimes it's defensive pieces, because Joe Burrow might not have an A+ game, week 16, but he may need to lean on a defense to kind of get him through a game. And guess what? Every win counts, right? Tom Brady's first 3 Super Bowls, at least the first 2, he was somewhat carried by defense in the run game. Now, Joe Burrow's at a totally different, part as far as in his progression as an NFL quarterback. But I think it's important to put a good team around Joe Burrow, because you can't just put everything on his back and expect this guy for the next 10, 15 years to just will the Bengals to playoffs and Super Bowls. And even talking about the AFC, we're talking about complete teams, right? Like, it's not just offensive powerhouses. The Bills, they're a really good football team on both sides of the football. The Broncos now are a really good football team on both sides of the football. You've seen the Las Vegas Raiders get better as far as their off-season signings on both sides of the football. So I think this is up to the general manager for him to continue to put a complete team around Joe Burrow.
2 more questions for you. We know you got draft parties. We know Roger
Yeah,
Goodell's
we all
waiting.
good, man. I told you, man. LSU to my people, man. I'm back home.
Well, you're in Vegas, man. I was just in Vegas, and I'm just happy that like you're working. When I was in Vegas, I was pina coladaing at the Circle Pool, losing money at the sports books and all that. Let me ask you this, okay? So you're a part of championship culture. And obviously, Edwards, Ron, everything, went falling down. Were you shocked? What was it a little shocking for you to see things fall so quickly?
Yeah, and I think it's just how quick it happened, right? And I think it just goes to, man, and I'm gonna say this word, but I don't think it gets enough respect, and maybe we should change it, right? And that's recruiting, right? Because I think at times it may have a childish connotation to it, right? Like, what is recruiting? Yeah. So it really needs to change. Like I said, maybe it needs to be called player acquisition or player retention, because that was so huge, right? When you talk about the players that we lost, and then if you miss a couple players and just maybe back-to-back class, or maybe like the 2018 2019 class, you immediately have a gap, and you need to ring the alarm, right? Like, what do we do to fix this and to plug these holes? So, man, it was just tough seeing it. And it's kind of one of those things, right, where you went all in on winning the championship, and then it's like, okay, man, how do we rebound from that? And it was just tough, and it was an unfortunate situation.
Yeah, and I think one thing specifically, and I feel like you would know this more than me. I was just blown away looking back at that 2017 class. How many hits? Like, that just doesn't happen. Normally, as you know, it's a 50% hit rate. And I went back and I was like, y'all hit on 2 out of every 3 of these guys. And we're talking about Justin Jefferson. Then you had Clyde, and then you had Neil Farrell. And I mean, did you know when that 2017 class came in, where you're like, there's a bunch of dudes in here? And did you know that was going to be a backbone of a championship team?
So I would say this: when you're forming a recruiting class, right? Obviously, your 5-star, 4-star guys, you feel good about those guys, right? But I think what really makes a recruiting class is how low is your floor. And you want to elevate that floor as much as possible. And then that's when I always like to talk about character, right? You need those kids. And that's when you really want to litter the class with those Louisiana kids that you know are going to be there for 2, 3, 4 years, develop as athletes, really good people. LSU means something to them, and then hopefully they can take it to the next level. And I think that's very key, right? When you can get those 3-star kids to go out there, they have a competitive nature to them, and now they're competing with those 5-star kids. Because I'll tell you this one thing, all it takes is about 2 weeks of practice, right? And you can kind of start separating what kids will make it because they have that competitive nature to them and the willingness to compete, and what kids won't make it, right? Like Damone Clark's success, that's no happenstance. That's because that's who that kid is as a person. I don't even call him a kid. That's who that grown man is as a person. And that's why I'm fully expecting him to rebound from this injury. And that was because he did have to come, sit on the bench, and, everything didn't go his way. But guess what? He kept continuing to fight. And then now everybody was talking about him as a possible second-round guy. And that's going all the way from being an undrafted guy last draft cycle. So, man, I think it's about setting your floor, right? Like those 3-star kids and those, possibly you shouldn't take any 2-stars, but those 3-star kids are definitely what set the tone for your class.
So let's say Brian Kelly comes to you right now, Sanchez, and says, hey, look, you are a member of what made LSU great, right? You did a lot of the work. You put the work in when it comes to studying film. If BK came to you and said, Keith, I want you to give me just a little bit of advice for me to succeed at this job, what would you tell
him? The SEC is a players' league. The SEC is a players' league. So, and those, when we talked about recruiting, whatever player evaluations, man, that comes first and foremost. That comes first and foremost. It don't matter what coaches you have to have talented players in there. So I would say this, that it's all about player acquisition. They need to go get top players. Like we looked at that 2019 class, that was, I think it finished with 5 first-round picks and almost broke the record for the most guys drafted in a draft ever. So it comes down to players. So I would say, man, let's hit the recruiting trails. Texas A&M is, they're rearing their head, right? They're becoming a problem, and we have to battle with them to get Houston back taken over. Louisiana, obviously we have to lock the state down. We have to dive into that Mobile area, even though I know that's Alabama territory, but Mobile is only 3-4 hours away from Baton Rouge, which is fairly close, which is closer than Tuscaloosa. So, man, I would say recruit, man. We have to recruit. We have to get those top players in there, just to get the job done.
Keith Sanchez, you can follow him on Twitter at The Talent Code. You were a member of the 2019 LSU National Championship team. You obviously put in the work. Those are some of our best recruiting classes we've had. And, man, I'm just happy seeing you flourish, man. You're with the Draft Network. You're in Vegas. Tell people the best way that they can to support you personally.
Oh, man, I would say just following me on Twitter at The Talent Code, because, like I said, I always pride myself on being honest with player evaluations and situations. And I use that via my Twitter, right? So just to support on Twitter, because I think, Twitter has become a crazy space, right? It's a crazy world, but just supporting the people that are actually doing the real footwork, out there, I think it'll be really good. And that'll definitely be a best way to benefit me.
Yeah, just admit it. You have Tesla stock and you're trying to, support Elon Musk. I knew it. That's what this whole thing was. This is his Twitter page at the Draft Network is where you can find his work. Last question for you, Keith. The sleeper LSU player in this draft will be, okay, we already talked about Damone Clark. We already talked about Derek Stingley. The sleeper steal player from this class will be who?
Ooh, okay, give me one second.
I'll give you mine. Okay?
All right, you go ahead, and I'm gonna follow right up.
Okay, so Jay Hill asked me about this today on 104.5, and I'm a TDP believer, right?
You kind of took my guy, but go ahead.
Yeah, it makes me feel better because look, we do film studies and stuff on this channel, and I look at people like you that do it for a living. I look at people who actually grind tape, and it seems as if just looking at what TDP did, a lot of the little things, the pass protection, the big time runs, the dealing with adversity when people saying, look, you don't deserve this job, let's give it to a true freshman.
Yeah,
that and breaking out as a true freshman and being a pretty solid player, that lends me to believe that his floor is Darrell Williams, that he's going to be at least a decent running back. So I've got to go TDP. I do like Ed Ingram. So what was that your guy? Is that who you're going to roll?
Yeah, not that was my guy. And I'm gonna bring up the word again when you talk about character, right? Not only I know him personally, but my last year there, I was in the running back room, right? So I sat next to him every single day, before practice and team meetings. And you're talking about a true student of the game. This guy was definitely a student of the game. Like he always had his notepad out, was willing to take notes, and then also translate that to practice. And he was a guy that I really seen him evolve as a person, right? They come in as 18, but as a kid, and I feel like now he's a grown man. So man, that's my number one supporter, Ty Davis Price. Man, I wish the very best for him. I was happy for him, just as far as him running his 40 time, because I know that was a big question mark for him. But man, if he stay down at that weight, I think he can really cause trouble. I think, as far as his production, people understand the offensive line issues that we had as a whole, right? But you've seen when you can really get him going in the Florida game, what this guy can do. And I really like your pick of Darrell Williams, and I kind of compared him when he came out of high school to that guy's jersey behind you, Jeremy Hill. I thought that's who he reminded me of. So man, I'm excited to see what he can do on the next level. It's all about him getting in the scheme, and man, you'll definitely hear his name a lot on the next level.
There you go. I'm sure TDP is watching this right now. It's like, oh my God, Sanchez, comparing me to one of the GOATs of LSU football. Friend of the channel, Jay Hill. You gotta love it, man. And look, you're always welcome to come back on. Have fun. Everyone wants to know, what are the next few days like for you in Vegas? Are you going to pool parties? Are you going to Are you going to Hakkasan to party with Gronk and Steve Aoki and those things?
Now I might come back after the draft, right? I might come back in May to celebrate, to do that type of stuff. But nah, man, it's just live draft coverage. So I would tell everybody, follow the Draft Network. Like I said, everybody tells what happened. We like to tell a why, and then really give you the deep details of team construction and who this player truly is, and what is his path to success on your team. So definitely follow the draftnetwork.com.
There you go. Well, Sanchez, we'll talk to you soon, man. Have fun in Vegas.
Hey, appreciate you, man. Have me on again soon.
Yeah, buddy. We'll talk soon, man. There he is. The Sanchez. That was a lot of fun, man. So, if you're just joining us, you're probably like, well, look, Keith Sanchez, right? Who's this guy? Well, he was only one of the key recruiting staffers of the 2019 LSU team. So he was absolutely phenomenal. Just behind the scenes. So I did some background, I did some research, and I saw he was on Twitter, and I saw that, he went to law school and all this stuff, and now he is working his way up the ladder. This is how those things go. So it's pretty cool to get to talk to someone that actually was behind the scenes, making it happen with the greatest freaking football team of all time, and he was just on the channel. And I think, Justin Vincent was on the channel not too long ago. So he was a part of the 2019 team, but it was, obviously more in an administrative role. I think that was the first 2019 guest that we've had on here, which is kind of crazy. So hopefully we get more. So shout out to Keith Sanchez. The rated rookie logos in the background is what I was jealous about, because I am a football card nerd. But we shout out now the Master Blaster. Gotta love it, baby. Jeremy Hill showing us some love. Look at this. So obviously we'll get into a lot of stories here. So that was really cool. Now this is just going to be like our normal live stream. I do have to say this, okay? I do have some really good news to share. All right. We have been working hard on this for quite some time. And during the Jack Besh conversation, we showed you a little prototype of what we have going on with the Presley Collection and PresleyCollection.com. Now, what I want you to do is take a look at this. I think you guys are going to freak, and boom, look at that. So this is a watch that he and I have been working on together. Pre-order your Tiger Watch DBU collection, and we're actually working with players on name, image, and likeness. So if you go to PresleyCollection.com, enter the promo code PHL, guess what? This watch that normally goes for $179, it actually goes for $100. Yes, I'm giving you $30 off if you go order right now. PHL Collection, go on ahead, take it out, check it out. Presley Collection, PresleyCollection.com. So if you are in the market for a watch, feel free to go check it out, Presley Collection and PresleyCollection.com. PHLcollection.com. We have a bunch of really good stuff brewing for you, and I appreciate you guys supporting the PHL movement. Really excited about that. Tony! So, Cliff, you get to pick the next topic. If you guys want to talk NFL draft, I'm very happy to do so. Obviously, this is kind of a sexy topic that I want to get into right off the jump. You guys know when it comes to 2023 class, I am a little early on my evaluations. So please forgive me that we're not doing much 2023 recruiting because we normally don't do much recruiting stuff at this point. We normally wait just a little bit just so we can have an idea what the new staff is going to do. However, there is some pretty big news. So Dante Moore visits campus last week, okay? Kind of a big deal that one of the best quarterbacks in the country, a top five-star visits, and here he is with Joe Burrow. What actually ends up being a pretty interesting story, okay? JAYDEN, okay, is also a five-star quarterback. He is also a top 50 player. As a five-star you normally are. He makes a quick, unofficial visit to LSU. Interesting. But Brian Kelly can't recruit. Really? A five-star quarterback from Michigan. A five-star quarterback. Where's Rashada from? California, right? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And we're sitting here, and there's people that have said that Brian Kelly is not a recruiter. How does that make sense? Two out-of-state five-star quarterbacks visiting LSU. I don't get it, okay? All right? You just heard a guest who was a part of the 2019 LSU team, okay? But he was with LSU for 4 years, okay? He was with LSU 4 years. What was the one thing you took away from the interview with Keith Sanchez? Okay, who knows way more about this stuff than I do. LSU recruits itself. LSU recruits itself. If you go to LSU, if you become the coach at LSU and recruits see Joe Burrow on the sidelines of spring games, they're interested. But LSU in the name, image, and likeness, you don't think LSU's got money? I mean, come on. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. But Texas A&M, it's LSU. It's LSU. Let's go to the first question here. How does the Mike Denbrock offense change if Jayden Daniels is not the starter with less mobile quarterbacks like Brennan or a semi-mobile quarterback like Nuss? So let me ask you this question, okay? And I want to start off here with Cliff's question, but I want to go in reverse, okay? Do you think Garrett Nussmeier is a real threat running the ball? Do you think running is something that Garrett Nussmeier is good at? Type Y for yes, type in for no. And when I say good, like a Joe Burrow level runner, right? Joe could run. He had 360 something yards rushing, and he made critical runs when they mattered the most. Honestly, I think that was one of the biggest reasons why we were undefeated, right? How high do you view Garrett Nussmeier's ability to run? Rob says no. Noah says no. Mick says yes. What's that, LSU sway? Love the wedding pic here. Good stuff. You got the hat. She's got the bag. I love it. I tend to agree slightly with this from Jared. I think he would be mobile enough to run if what Tony says is true, right? If he doesn't hesitate when he runs, right? If he doesn't think before he runs. Well, Carter, what do you mean doesn't think? Well, sometimes running just comes down to want to. Also, something else about Garrett Nussmeier when it comes to his actual running ability, and Cliff, I'm actually glad you brought this up. And I know you're more talking about Jayden Daniels versus Myles Brennan. Don't forget, Master Blaster, you got a super chat question. You get picked the next topic. The difference between actual running ability is some quarterbacks run because they can't make all the throws, right? That's part of why they decide to run. The thing about Garrett Nussmeier is he is very, very decisive with the football. Now, that could sometimes, lead you to mistakes, but be honest. I want you to be as honest with yourself wherever you are right now. Garrett Nussmeier is one of the most talented throwers of the football we've seen at LSU. Even his incompletions are incredible. Now, the thing is, being a great thrower of the football does not make you a great quarterback. Okay? It doesn't. Arm talent does not make you a great quarterback. If it did, the greatest NFL quarterbacks of all time would be Ryan Mallett and Jamarcus Russell. Okay? It's not the be-all, end-all. But I think part of the reason why Garrett doesn't run, number one, I don't think he is necessarily a dual-threat quarterback. I know there were some Johnny Manziel comparisons. He's not Manziel as an athlete. He's just not. That's just not him. Manziel is not viewed as a runner because he wasn't. It just wasn't a thing with him. But Manziel's one of the best and most efficient runners in college football history at the quarterback position. He's not that. He is, to me, the perfect comp would be Zach Wilson, right? A guy who can just make a lot of crap happen because his arm is very talented and he's very decisive. Okay. So I do think Jayden Daniels' running ability is huge for this reason. Okay. And look, you may not think Jayden Daniels is a good starting quarterback. You may think he's better as just a change of pace guy or whatever. But the one thing I would say about Jayden Daniels is think about LSU as a team going into next year. Okay? Tyler. Think about LSU as a team going into next year. They're going to have to win some games ugly. And the one thing about a mobile quarterback is they can make some off-platform things happen that helps you win games ugly. Okay? Let me give you a good example of this. Will Levis of Kentucky last year was a very winning quarterback. Now, you can't beat Georgia with Will Levis, right? You got to have a dude back there to beat an elite defense. You do. You got to have someone that can actually, make throws. But Will Levis is still a very winning quarterback. He's not a great thrower. In fact, Will Levis, to me, is a pretty decent comp to Jayden Daniels, right? Guys that have holy crap moments with their arm, but not overall consistent. And I think, sometimes it's not the prettiest, right? So I do think as far as offense is concerned, a guy like Garrett Nussmeier does give your offense, when it comes to a vertical passing game, a ridiculous ceiling. Same thing for Myles Brennan. But the one thing is the zone read game is something that forces defensive ends and defenses to think twice about what they do, right? And if you're going up against these Will Andersons, if you're going up against these really good end prospects in the West, it helps. Myles 1, Nuss 2, Daniels 3. Freakazilla. All right. Good to see you, my man. Daniels is an elite runner. LGZ. Akon and LGZ. Akon and LGZ. Let's just sing would go down just a little bit. Akon and LGZ. There he is. Y'all see LGZ in the PHL shirt? So, I will say this. I believe it was Tyler who asked you this question. I did just get these in the mail today. Okay. I only have a few, but the next few t-shirt orders gets a Trend and Holiday card. Okay. Next 2 t-shirt orders gets a Trend and Holiday Prism card. You just saw a minute ago, Keith Sanchez was on here. The Draft Network and Panini are big-time partners, right? Prism is a part of Panini. Okay, I won't get into football card culture. I'm a nerd about it. So, next 2 t-shirt orders get Trend and Holiday cards. But to go along to Cliff's question, how does the offense change was the question. What version of the Den Brock offense do we see if JD is not the quarterback? You just don't see the same rollout game. That's part of it, right? And the one thing about the rollout game is, okay, for instance, let's take, to me, Garrett Nussmeier's worst play, okay? Garrett Nussmeier rolled out to the right, and it was the first play coming out of the half, okay? So when he was rolling out to the right, before the snap, Jay Ward ran into the box, okay, which changes the coverage, okay? That was not good for Garrett Nussmeier because when you're rolling out to the right and you call a rollout, half of the field gets cut off, right? So if you're not someone that can run with the ball, that takes away an option for what you can do with the ball. Also, if you're rolling out to the right, the defense knows all you can do is throw the football outside of the hash, right? So rollout game becomes a lot different. Now, of course, Garrett Nussmeier also scored a TD on a touchdown rollout pass. That was because Xavier Carter got fooled on a bootleg. But I'm not saying that the rollout game you can't do. Oh, look at this, Rob. It's funny. I just mailed out your last t-shirt order. Round of applause for Rob joining once again the PHL t-shirt club. And he's also getting a Trend and Holiday card. Also, every time Rob has ordered a shirt, I've sent him an autograph from the 2007 championship team. I sent him Derry Beckwith. So, Rob, I actually have it over here. I am sending you a Herman Johnson autograph card. All right, so Rob is a diehard fan of the 2007 national championship team. Okay, so Rob has Craig Steltz. He has Matt Flynn. He's got Derry Beckwith. And Rob is now also going to get this Trend and Holiday card, who was also a member of the 2007 national championship team. And you're also going to get a Herman Johnson autograph card. Shout out to you. Tyler, no, we have I have another Trend and card. So there you go. Rob's got one of them, though. Okay. Back to you, Rob. Thank you so much. King Robert's hanging in there. Marcus, I still talk to Marcus a fair amount. I don't know why he doesn't come back to the chat room, but I'm glad I'm glad you asked about him. What version of the Den Brock offense do we see if JD is not the QB? So yeah, that's part of it. Okay, and sometimes you got to win games ugly, right? Sometimes you just do. Now, some of you have mentioned this from our Jayden film study. There were some passing issues, right? The intermediate game did get a little rough. So I did get this question, and I actually made this video for Cliff, and A few others that have asked me a lot of questions about Jayden Daniels. So, full disclosure, I cut the Jayden Daniels film study late Saturday night. And I actually made an editing mistake because I forgot to include one of his 3 completions from the spring game. So we showed you the amazing Brian Thomas touchdown. We showed you, and it wasn't a touchdown, but we showed you just some ridiculous throws he made to Kyron Lacey, and he dropped them. I do want to show you this, though, really quickly, okay? Before we do, we welcome in Stacy. Welcome to the channel, Stacy. Good to see you. I think this is your first time here, Stacy. So congratulations, everyone. Welcome Stacy to the channel. And Tyler, you know I'm going to send you a bunch of stuff when you get your shirt. But let's see this really quickly. So this was the video that I accidentally cut out from Jayden Daniels. He had an overall really solid spring game for his first time in Tiger Stadium. So there he is. What's up, LJ? Good to see you, man. Always love the fit. LJ's photos are always so great. Stacy, there you go. Good stuff. So Stacy, you're our first timer. I always answer first timer questions. But let me show you this really quickly. Let's go. So I accidentally cut this Jayden Daniels play out of my film study. And it's pretty simple. Even though this was a completion, one of his 3, this is a very inaccurately thrown football to Jeray Jenkins. Just the short of it, if you hit him in stride where he can actually catch and run with it, it's a first down. Instead, he had to dive for this football. So instead of first down, it ended up being 2nd and 1. And that's obviously something that we don't want. We want to get as many yards as we possibly can. Now, full disclosure, sometimes, especially in the red zone, you do want to throw the football to the ground to protect your receiver. But right here, you don't. Now, once again, the graphics in the way, we can't see the footwork here. But the protection's really good. We're running 3 slants right here. And Jayden actually does some really good processing. We don't want to throw the football here because Jay Ward's right here. We also don't want to throw the football here because Jay Ward breaks off this round. He would have picked this off for a touchdown. So really good processing to throw the football to the right player, just not great execution, okay? So this is why, you know, this, even though it's a completion, which is a good thing, it's not necessarily a good throw. So there you go. I had a few of you ask, because what happened was at the end of the film study, I actually referenced the Jayden Daniels completion to Jeray. And that's the thing, you know, can you hit the receiver in stride? And, you know, you would see that, you know, watching some of Jayden Daniels' film. Now, once again, he had a lot of good plays in the spring game. Obviously, the runs is what really stood out. The BTJ throw was nothing short of incredible. And the Tyler Lacey throw was his best throw of the day. Still, though, that intermediate game is huge. It's absolutely huge. I know I always preach on this channel, explosive plays is what counts. And look, if you do lack some accuracy, it's okay. It's perfectly okay if you still hit the deep balls, right? So it's crazy. Now, this is something else I do want to bring in to the equation, right? Jayden Daniels, coordinator. And look, Tyler joined the PHL T-shirt club. You know, Tyler's one of the big-time members of the PHL Nation. Gotta love it. Welcome, Tyler, to the T-shirt club. You know you love it. And shout out to you. You are getting a Trenton Holiday card, much like your dear friend Rob. And Tyler, you know I'm going to send you some goodies, right? I don't have any Garrett Nussmeier cards. I don't. But I'll work on that just for you. Look, my goal is to get Garrett Nussmeier or Jayden Daniels or any of the quarterbacks on this channel. I'd love to, because we talk about them so much. Part of me, though, you guys know that football is a team game. I know I look at my analytics. If I don't talk about quarterbacks, you know, people turn it off. But you guys know I'm more than just quarterbacks. I get just excited talking about Ray Darius Jones as I do, you know, Jayden Daniels. I get excited talking about freaking Greg Penn, who had an amazing play in the spring game. I was really happy to see that. It's It's key. It's key. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm really excited. Tyler's part of the PHL club. So Tyler, you know my email. Shoot me an email, powerhourlsu@gmail.com, and we will get your shirt out in the mail. This is a good point here from LSU Sway. Can't wait to see more Emery and Goodwin. It does make you wonder where Noah Kane is going to fit in, right? We'll see. This is a good question, though. We always love to show love to our first timers. What's up, Stacy? Also to our PHL super dads. Shout out to you, all our super dads, PHL. You know you love it, baby. We love you. I'm telling you, I'm very lucky. I got to go to the Pelicans game with my dad over the weekend. My dad is very involved in my life, and I know how important it is to have the super dads and super moms of PHL out there. This is a question that I get a lot, right? Instead of, why don't we think about a quarterback who can play for 2 seasons, right? Joe won a Super Bowl, took us to the title game in year 2. Quarterbacks at LSU are always better. Our best quarterbacks played at least 2 years, right? Matt, Russell, Joe, right? They were 2-year guys. So I get it. But Stacy, part of it is, and it's 2 things. College football is so fluid, whereas in the NFL, you kind of do have to build rapport with your franchise quarterback and the team. But college is such a year-to-year thing that it's kind of hard to think, especially now with the transfer portal being the way that it is now, it's kind of hard to think of things where, okay, we want to play this guy now because year 2, he's going to be a mother effing dude. It's kind of hard to think that way, right? The second thing about that is college football, the games are so few that I do think sometimes you just need to worry about that year, right? Now, there are rare instances where you need to worry about the future, such as, well, let's not play this guy because we want to make sure that, we don't burn a red shirt for player X. And I totally get that line of thinking. So yeah. The shirts run comfy. And I'm not just saying that just to say it. The shirts are comfortable as heck. I'm not just saying it to say it. We've had plenty of testimonials on it, right? Oh, look, that's fine. That's fine, Skipper. Look, this channel is not for, this channel is not for people to just wax poetic about everything LSU. I want people to be as honest as they possibly can about their opinions. This is a free thought channel, right? And look, no one's out to get any of these players. Everybody wants the best player to succeed for LSU. So, it's part of it. Yeah, we touch on this in the film study. The Nuss rollout definitely should have been intercepted. And the second throw, which Derek Davis read cleanly, Nuss actually got bailed out because his accuracy was so good, but he telegraphed that pass the whole way. You're right on here. And this is something that got people a little confused with Max Johnson, right? Max Johnson, this is a stat that everyone shares about Max Johnson, 27 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. They don't tell you about the fumbles. They don't tell you that Max Johnson had some of the best interception luck you'll ever see, such as drop picks and balls that were slightly deflected and fumble recovery luck. It was ridiculous, right? So, man, it's tough. It's really, really tough. Now that doesn't mean that Garrett Nussmeier had a bad spring game. He was the best quarterback in the spring game. But this is just something that's always been with Garrett Nussmeier that we've seen in the limited sample. He'll throw picks. And that's part of being a very talented vertical passer. You think you can make every throw. So, So it's important to add in all that extra context. Hey, LJ, I guess LJ wasn't watching yesterday. During the Jayden Daniels breakdown, Cardell was putting on a clinic. Now, he was going up against Bryce Langston, who's had it kind of rough at defensive tackle to start his career. But yeah, I'll say this, LJ. I think Cardell is a lock to be the first guard off the bench if LSU decides to start Frazier and Shorts. Now, the thing that's going to be difficult for Cardell is Marlon Martinez wasn't healthy, so that's one thing. Xavier Hill is still there. And the second thing is Emory Jones is good. Like I'm still not backing off my Emory Jones evaluation, right? I think he's going to be really good. I do. I think he's going to be a really good guard for LSU, potential tackle. I would also be down to experimenting with center with him or Borderline. You just got to find, a few answers there. I like some of the things Fitzgerald West did. Also, the spring game was a little up and down for him as well, but that's his first, game. But we'll see. And LJ, I know you're the king of the Cardell bandwagon. I love it. Also, I love this. Let's go to here. Also, you can't determine anything based on a spring game. I thought we all agreed to this before the game started. You can and you can't, right? I think Pegasus part of, drawing an evaluation from a spring game isn't just the spring game itself. It's kind of some of the things that you see in practice and some of the other stuff that you hear about a certain player, right? So, for instance, I think so last year Max started the spring game, if I'm not mistaken, and he was starting quarterback. I'm trying to remember the last time the starting quarterback of the spring game wasn't actually the starting quarterback at LSU. I need to look that up. But yeah, as far as like sweeping conclusions, you can't really do that after any practice or any game. But you can also see some things, right? So, for instance, let's say Bryce Langston and Quincy Wiggins. I saw them in drills not performing at their highest level. And in the spring game, they had some rough patches, right? Now, Quincy did recover a fumble, but, that didn't shock you if you actually watched the practices, right? Now, those two young gentlemen are top 150 recruits. Especially Quincy, it could turn out to be special, but that's part of it. Also, the spring game, Malik and Jack Besh balled out. Now we knew that kind of already, but they look better. They really did. Their football IQ is really high. They do a lot of the little things to help other guys get open. So yeah, I mean, you can't take any sweeping conclusion away from the spring game, but you can at the same time be like, okay, well, this thing happened, so I kind of believe this to be true. So yeah. This is also true, which is kind of crazy. Huh? It's a question I get a lot. I think as far as this question is concerned, the first thing is Jack does block really well. And what was interesting was some of his best blocking games were early in the season. Our Corey Kiner film study was showed that Jack Bech has some good blocking chops, right? I do see some positives of keeping him at hybrid tight end. But I do think LSU will run some 10 personnel where Jack can play a tight end-ish role. I like to call it a 10.5 personnel, if that makes sense. But he's one of the best receivers in the SEC. I truly do believe it, right? And I say this on every show that I go on, right? I'm not just saying this just because Jack Bech jumped on the channel. I was very happy that he did. It just kind of happened, So I don't want you guys to think that, I'm pumping up Jack Bech when, I had him as my number one true freshman going into this past year. Well, I had him number 2 behind Mason as far as like first year contributors. I've always been super high on Jack Bech. Always. I had the receipts. So yeah, I just think having him on the field is the most important thing. I really do. I thought LSU was making some major mistakes when they took him off the field. I think not having him in the game during the overtime interception that Nussmeier threw, that was inexcusable, right? Having Jack Bech off the field at any time, more often than not, is a big mistake, especially on third down, especially in the red zone. Okay? If it's intermediate and you need a thing to get done, Jack mother effing Bech is going to get the mother effing thing done. It's the bottom line. We've seen it. It's objective fact at this point. That's not an evaluation for me, right? But that doesn't, sometimes, slot receiver, which, he's going to play a lot of slot. You think, well, he can only do this and then. No, he's explosive too. He's great at beating man coverage. He can get you a deep pass. He can catch you a jump ball. He has no weakness, right? I just want to make sure he's on the field. I just want to make sure that guy's on the field, right? I still do have him as my solid number 2 wide receiver, but Malik is really close. He really is. Now, as you guys know, I'm a major Jure Jenkins believer. So, any combination of those 4 guys, I like those 4 guys right there. Now, obviously, my number 5 is going to be BTJ, but, obviously, whenever we bring up wide receivers, it's the number one thing we talk about. It's the number one thing that gets debated. The key thing is on this channel, I have to put my money where my mouth is, right? I got to be completely honest with you. I don't want a deep wide receiver rotation, right? We took too many reps from the best players on the team to players that didn't actually cut it, right? Now, there were other players on the team that were good stories, but when they were on the field, they didn't make stuff happen. I want players on the field who make stuff happen, right? We tend to think of wide receiver, well, there's 3 on the field and we got a deep stable and we got to play the best receivers, keep that rotation of 5, 6 maximum and go from there. Now, look, Chris Hilton and Kyron Lacey, they might supersede some of the names that I mentioned. But right now, Kayshawn, Jack, and Malik kind of look to me that they've separated themselves. And that's not just a spring game evaluation. So we'll see. But I get what you're saying, Esteban. Run 10 personnel and put Jack at tight end. I hope they do that. I do. I hope they do set some, right? I will say this. Denbrock is you'll never mistake his offense for a Lane Kiffin offense or a Lincoln Riley offense, but it's a very deceptive offense. There's a lot of eye candy that he likes with this play calling. He's a very clever guy, right? A lot of offenses aren't all that clever. They're just really well designed. They run a few plays out of a few formations and they get really good at it. Mike Denbrock's a little bit different. He likes to run 12 personnel some snaps and then the next brand new personnel in 11. And that kind of coincides with Cincinnati last year being one of the teams in all of college football that didn't run that many plays. I believe they're 123rd in the country in plays per game. So when you play at a slower pace, you do have more variables. You do have deeper personnel. You are moving guys in and out. You are moving a little bit more methodically. So we'll see. That's true, Skip. That's true. Gotta love this team, man. Yeah, Keaton, it's a good question about Cole. I like Cole a lot. He did have a good spring game. I do think a lot of what he did was schemed open, right? The key thing is, that I got from Cole Taylor was his blocking in the spring game was really, really good. And Cole Taylor, we've done plenty of film studies on this. You guys know I love these guys. I love this team. The blocking was really rough for Cole in a lot of spots. His blocking was really good in the spring game, as in he was getting the job done, which is something they hadn't seen from him. Well, it happens when, you bring in the best tight end head coach in the country and you bring in Mike Denbrock, who the OC and the tight end coach. That was really good for Cole. I really do think so. So, can Cole be your full-time starting tight end? It's different when you are the full-time starting tight end, right? Like, I don't, Keaton, view Cole Taylor as like a Thaddeus Moss, Richard Dixon, like 70 to 80% snap share kind of guy, right? So that's going to be the big dilemma that LSU is going to have to answer, right? I just don't see that in his game. I do think this spring really helped him out. And this is something that I've always said about Cole. And I know Carvis was in here during the last live chat. He always reminds you always said Cole Taylor year 3, Cole Taylor year 3. Well, it's year 3 and he's gotten better. Like that was always my evaluation on him. And I'm glad it's starting to come to fruition. I want to see it though on an actual Saturday. I want to see it on an actual game because, the toss shoe, that's great. Let's be honest. It's one of my favorite LSU plays of all time. And an overall, that Florida win is probably a top 5 win for me because I'm a little petty. And I like that. I'm like that ended the Mullen tenure, but still. Let's go. So, what's funny? I'm actually going to send this $10 super chat back to Nola Grizz and his wife because I sent them shirts. And you guys know, I want to see you in your shirts. I want to see you rocking that merch, baby. But Nola Grizz says, look, I'm too busy. I got boats. I got a restaurant. I got businesses. I was looking at Nola Grizz's IG. He's got you got some kind of UFC kickboxing thing going on. So I know not to cross you. My goal, I know I'm not a UFC guy, and this isn't a UFC channel, and I don't really look at a whole lot of UFC other than like the nights of the fight. I am a big DC and Dustin Poirier fan. Shout out 337. Yes, I'm sucking up to Lafayette. Let's go. So let's go. Whew. Whew. I'm loving these $9.99 super chats, baby. Let's go. I love this team and what BK is doing. We got so much talent and a tenacious tiger at the helm. I like that. I also think, speaking of tenacious, Tenacious D is overrated. I had to say it. I hated all my friends. You got to hear this funny Jack Black guy. Tenacious D is overrated. It is. Year 1, we're going to be silencing many naysayers. Hold that mother effing tiger. Let's go. Thank you, Nola Grizz. You get to pick the next topic. Feel free to do so. I can't wait for the Tenacious D stands to come after me. I have a feeling though, like Tenacious D diehard fans are going to be like, who cares? No big deal. But there are some bands and artists not to ever say anything remotely negative about them. Okay? Never. It's going to sound crazy. Never, ever say anything negative about Rolling Stones. Because the Mick Jagger fans are going to come after you like there's no tomorrow. Okay? Danny! Danny! What up, Danny? Danny girl. I've been here listening here all night, but I've taken a vow of silence. Danny! Until we actually have a true center. Are you kidding me? For today only, I'm jumping on Tyler bus for Nuss. I want the best man to win. So, Danny, I'm excited that you actually super chatted this in support of Tyler. Congrats, Tyler. By the way, Tyler is a member of the PHL T-shirt club tonight. So, Danny, look, Danny, us PHL T-shirt club members, we're very, it's an elusive club. Not everybody can get in this elusive club of PHL T-shirt members. It's hard. I mean, look, I get it. Not everybody wants to bear the crest of the greatest LSU YouTube channel that only focuses on football of all time. All time. It's kind of funny. So, look, I know I'm an LSU fan, LSU football fan, but, I talk about the team objectively. So I was on a few shows today. Shout out to Mark Rogers on the Voice of College Football. He's great. I was on with Chris Gordy, my longtime friend at KLSU, one of the best, radio talents in the game. He's based out of Houston. I was on with him today, and I was also on with Jay Hill and Mario. So it's kind of a busy day. Good for PHL. We're growing the brand. We had Keith Sanchez on tonight. That was really cool. But what's very interesting is Mario Jerez and Jay Hill. They asked me about the Pels. Let's go, Pels. I know they're playing right now. My focus is on you. I've not checked the Pelican score yet. I know this is, for me, this is my hobby. This is my lifestyle. But it's also my job. I take this job very seriously. You guys see the breakdowns, right? But yeah, it's cool to see the Pels do their thing. Okay, Marcellus, good to see you. Let's go. Put an Oil Grace's super chat. I'm sure this has been answered, but what the heck are we going to do about the tight end position? I love her tight end play. So you're lucky. We were just in the middle of a Cole Taylor discussion. So let's talk about the other guys, right? So I'm not the only guy that feels this way. Blake, as you guys know, me and Blake talk daily. We both like Nick Storrs. They didn't do anything spectacular in the spring game. That's what you want. He's a blocking tight end. And, of course, Jack Mashburn. Now, let's do this, okay? All right, this is key, all right? You notice I threw this in here. I'm not the best overall LSU channel. All those channels are better than me, okay? But I'm the best channel that only focuses on LSU football. You missed that part, right? Even though I talked about my Pels for 2.5 seconds. Still riding with Miles B. No, Danny's a member. Danny's a proud T-shirt club member. He was just showing love to Tyler for joining the PHL T-shirt club, which is good. So to Nolan Grace's question about the and Danny, if you want to ask another question, go right on ahead. Let me ask you this. All right. Let me ask you this. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being absolute most confident to 1 being the absolute lowest, do you guys feel Mason Taylor is a year 1 guy? He's a year 1 tight end that could help LSU win right now. Okay? Scale of 1 to 10. 10 being your absolute most confident Mason Taylor can be a Thaddeus Moss type player, or 1 being he's not ready at all. I'd rather him redshirt. Seven, 5, 7, 6, 6. Year 1 with this staff. It's interesting. What's up, Daniel? Good to see you again. Brian Kelly has had a lot of year 1 tight ends. 5, 6, 5. Everyone show love to the treasure.
Go to bed.
Oh?
iPad. Where'd you put it?
It's right here. It's on. There you go.
I gotta go pee.
Z-Baby's not being good? What's up, Nathan? 8, 7. Receiving wise, absolutely. I have no idea why Usher has been stuck in my head. I love Usher so freaking much. That guy is so good, man. I think it's because, like, every time I open up Instagram, like, he's big on, like, the roller skating thing. I know some of you old schoolers in here are, like big roller skaters, right? I'm not coordinated enough to do roller skating, but it kind of feels like it's kind of the thing. I feel like I could get some moves on skates. Let's go to the next super chat here. The Master Blaster. I watched the spring game, and I didn't take much from that game. I think we'll have our answer by game 3. Thoughts? Tony, here is the dilemma about this super chat. Okay? Now, a lot of you in the background, I know there's a lot competing for your attention tonight. I didn't even know LSU baseball was playing tonight. I just didn't. Okay? Pelicans are playing. You guys know how big of a Pels fan I am, right? It's my second favorite American sports team behind LSU football. What makes college football very interesting is all these other sports have game 3 to figure it out. All these other sports. You lose a season opener, no big deal. No sweat off my back. College football is not like that. College football is a sport where, yes, you don't need to be firing on all cylinders right out the gate, but you better win that first game. Because as many of you know, we probably still would have been mediocre if we would have lost the season openers in both these last 2 games. But you saw how important winning that first game is. You saw how important it is. So, that's the thing. The coaches, Tony, don't know much about their team until game 3. But you still got to find a way to win game 1 and game 2 or game 3. A lot of people don't know about their team until the bye week, what their best lineups are. They just don't, right? Because the coaches are always in a dilemma where, for instance, let's use the Pelicans, for instance. Willie Green, super talented coach, would have never guessed it because they started 1-12. But obviously, Willie was really talented. He was dealt a crappy hand with the Zion situation. The NBA allows you to figure it out. Every single sport allows you to figure it out, not college football. And it's the only sport where there is no preseason to at least give you an idea. So that's the scary thing about it, right? Because a lot of you have made this point tonight. You can't take anything away from the spring game, which is true. I cannot say this enough. right? So Keith Sanchez joined us. He was a former LSU staffer. There's a lot of guessing that you have to do as a college football staff. You can have hundreds of talented staffers and coaches that have been around the country. They recruit all these kids. There's all this tape that they got to cut up. It's not just huddle tape. It's high school tape. You got to talk to this high school coach, talk to this analyst, so on and so on and so on. And you still don't know a lot because games are different, right? You've heard Brian Kelly talk about this with Jack Besh. When the lights are on, he's a different guy, right? Doesn't mean he doesn't practice well. Guys aren't gamers. And you can't know that until an actual game is played. So that is what makes this sport so great. And I love when I get this kind of question because it's what makes college football the most beautiful sport we have in America, because you got to bring it each and every week. There are no off weeks. You got to win. In order to get into the college football playoff, you've got to avoid losing. You just do. Can't say that about any other sport, right? You can lose a few games in other sports. Not in college football. You just can't. Tyler joined the T-shirt club, and Danny is happy. Let's go. The question is, with the stacked wide receiver room, does BK use Besh in the tight end role as needed? I hate having to admit that Taylor looked good in the spring game. Esteban asked about this earlier. You did super chat, though, so I'm happy to talk about this again. I do think LSU is going to run a lot of 10.5 personnel. I do think you'll see a lot of Jack as a kind of hybrid tight end, but you don't necessarily see him at tight end because he is a good blocking wide receiver, right? I think a good comparison for Besh would be Hines Ward, right? Just a physical, high IQ gamer that has some real breakaway ability. Right? Really good at beating man coverage, just a guy that you want on the field at all times. So, yeah, I could see Besh playing some tight end, especially if Cole Taylor does struggle. But it is something to be said when there are so many people out there that say, hey, our tight end room is really thin. It's really thin. It's really thin. It's really thin. And Cole Taylor hears it. These players, they watch YouTube. They look at the go-to 4-7 to the world, and they look at all these websites, and the narrative is that the tight end room is thin. So that just makes you work that much harder. And it's crazy. And I'm happy that Cole still puts in the work. He gets after it. He practices hard. It's just been tough being a 3-star 6'6" kid out of Colorado. And Colorado is not known for high school football. They're known for snowboarding, the Rockies, and weed. I mean, and they're not known for the Rockies. They're known for Nikola winning the MVP when it should have been Giannis. But anyway, well, they haven't even announced the MVP. Still, I still think it should be Giannis or Jokic because Giannis is the best player. But still, yeah, we'll see. We'll see with Cole. I am glad you asked the super chat, Danny, and shout out to you. Outside of the architecture, Perkins and Will, the other Frosh that will make an impact in year one is Welsh. Interesting. Oh, really quickly, I gotta shout this out. So Jared Addison used to always bug me about this, and he would not make fun, but he would joke about it. Do you remember the old PHL days when we were still living in what I called the shack, right? And all we had was a black curtain, so we didn't have the cards, we didn't have the cool Joe Burrow painting, we didn't have all these cool things, right? So back when we used to live in the shack, the shack was where my studio was located, was in the dryer, the washer and dryer room. So you guys would be listening to the live stream and you would hear a buzzer, and no, it wouldn't be a shot clock violation. It wouldn't be that little buzzer that always time too early for your multiplication table test. That buzzer, that sound on that little white turny buzzer. That wouldn't be that. It would be the washer and dryer in the background. It's Welsh. I love it. Let's take a look at the poll question. Derek Stingley will be a 3-time Pro Bowler in the NFL. Look at that. Danny, we got to fix this dryer. Tell the hubby to get on it. Let's see this. I don't think Sting's going to go top 5. I know he's been connected to Houston. I don't see that happening. I just don't. I do think so here's where I think Derek Stingley's going to go. Minnesota. It makes a lot of sense. It makes too much sense, honestly. I think he's going to slide a little. I think he will go to Minnesota. People that are better at mock drafts, Evan Silva and them did a mock. Scott Smith, who's actually a viewer of the channel. Those guys are the best mock drafters out there. They have Derek Stingley going to Minnesota. I would love that fit, right? They have some good leadership in that room. Justin Jefferson's there. Patrick Peterson is there. That's a perfect fit for Derek Stingley. I don't want him going to Houston. I don't want him going to teams that don't have an established locker room culture. I don't want him to go to a roster that needs a bunch of pieces to win. I want him falling to a really good team that's ready to contend right now. Minnesota's, they've always had enough talent. It just comes down to Kirk Cousins, right? I think he will. I do. I just, I do. I just don't know if Houston is going to want to draft the corner that high with the offensive tackles and defensive ends having, such higher grades across boards. And I think Houston has 2 picks there. So yeah, I think he does. I think there is a little bit of slide, a little slide to this game. So yes, so I will touch on this. We will be doing some live streaming from England. I don't know how it's going to happen. I will say it won't be at our normal time, so be on the lookout for that. I kind of want to do a live stream from like the London Bridge. I think that would be pretty cool. So would you guys be down for some live streaming from England? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Take a look at the poll question. Will Jordan Allen or Terrence Welsh be year 1 contributor on defense? A lot of you believe so, yes. It's a true freshman defensive back. It's tough. It's really tough. It's not to be a true freshman at any. Would you guys like some England live stream? And of course, it would have to be a little bit earlier in the day. Well, Cliff says yes. He's the president of PHL. Yeah, we'll do some live streaming from England. I got to shout out Rob. Rob has supported me so much. I mean, I don't show Rob enough love. I really don't. I know he's in every chat. I always show him love on the super chats, but really, you guys know how much Rob, makes this dream a reality for me. So yeah. So yeah, 6 hours ahead. So if I did a live stream at like 8 p.m., it would be 2 p.m. for you guys. I'd be down. I know some of you will be at work. It's going to be a little different. It's actually a good idea. Text me this, Jared, and remind me. A lot, LJ. A lot. It's kind of funny, right? A lot at multiple positions. So you have 2 true freshman offensive linemen coming in, 1 transfer running back, Ibieta at receiver, Taylor at tight end, and then on defense you have Perkins, you have Welch, you have Allen, you have DeMario Tolan. You have a lot. I'm so excited about this England trip. Really am. But Haley, oh my God. The whole time we're going to be there trying to stalk Harry Styles. We need a book band photo from the top of the big Ferris wheel. Let's see something. So I want to show you this. If you're just now joining us on the channel, take a look at this. So this is a project, Prezi Collection, PreziCollection.com. If you're in the market for a watch, all you got to do is go here, and then you got all these DBU watches. So you see, we've already taken $50 off the top right here. Go right here, add to cart. Okay, check a strap, and then once you purple strap only, add to cart, and all you got to do is actually I got 2 in here. Get you 2. I don't care. Get in there, and if you put in the PHL code, you see it right there. You get $30 off. $30 off. Are you kidding me? PreziCollection.com. Check it out. Fish and chips. Crown jewels. Yeah, Tolan was on campus. He just didn't practice. We pointed him out on that Miles Brennan film study. Number 32. Nathan Sestero Morales. I think we rank it pass defense next year. Hopefully, not last. So in 2020, we gave up 9.7 yards per pass attempt. There was no other team in the SEC. There was no other team in the SEC that that gave up more than 9, right? In 2020s. And last year, we weren't great in the explosive passing game either. So, yeah, I mean, we got to get better. We just do. We just do. English mustard? All right, guys. Well, there are some things we got to work on. I got to personally work on before I watch the end of this Pelicans game. It was a lot of fun hanging out with you tonight. Once again, big thanks to Rob and Tyler joining the PHL T-shirt club. If you haven't joined already, please do it. We are at the hour 38 mark. I will answer as many questions as I possibly can in the next few minutes. If you do super chat, we will happily keep this party going all night long. Tonight, okay. Where are my Lionel fans at? All night long. So, yeah, we'll have a live stream Thursday. We'll also have one Saturday, then on Sunday. Graduation. Also happens to be the same name of the legendary Kanye West album. Was Good Life on graduation? I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm talking so much music tonight, and I don't know anything about music. Yeah, we're not flying out till Sunday. So we'll have a Thursday night live stream for the draft, and then obviously Saturday night. And the Pelicans play on Thursday in the blender. But I'm not going. I want to. They've won every game this year in the playoffs that I've gone to. So I think I kind of need to go. But we'll see. All right. I think that's going to do it. Tomorrow night, I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish it, but I want to have my Miles Brennan film study done by tomorrow, and we can air it for all the lovely people out there. Oh, congratulations, Chris. Daughter has state band and choir competition. Let's go. All I've heard, Pierce, is Phoenix is an incredible city, right? Phoenix sounds like a good time. It does. F it. Someone call up Elon Musk, get me on a Tesla, and I'm going to get to Phoenix. I don't think a Tesla could get me there on time. Why haven't they figured out time travel? Or, why haven't they figured out like getting you to a location like that? You would think we would have that figured out by now. LA Mod 2020. I know you're working tonight. That's okay. LJ, let's go. Let's go. I'm not telling porn. I'm seeing the porn. All right, guys. We'll see you tomorrow, hopefully, for the Miles Brennan film study. Yeah, it is. Power Hour LSU. Boom. On tonight. Oh, yeah. Once again, thanks to our friends at Pressy Collection. Make sure you go check out the Tiger Watch. Promo code PHL. You get $30 off. And tonight, we are... Oh, we're doing Tolo's Pizza again. Let's go.